What do you think, Pema?
As you like, Venerable. I think we have, we have like usually 20 something people, so it's not 20 yet.
Yeah, not everyone is here. Yesterday the same, the last 5, they come in the first 5 minutes. They think, we're just gonna have a little chat and then we do meditation. I can skip all that. Right?
Yeah, maybe because of that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's me filling in. I'm not sure if that's true. I know my own mind and I know what I do. So maybe I'm projecting that. Maybe I'll just start.
Sure, yeah.
Huh?
Sure.
How is everyone going? Hi. Nice to see you all. How are you doing? Are you good? Are you good? Good. All thumbs up. I don't have to ask the next question. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I hope you are enjoying. Sometimes teachings on this topic can crack the brain a little bit, or make it numb or push it in all kinds of directions where it is not used to go. So it's not always easy to listen. And sometimes you also might be left behind confused and you think, I didn't get anything, So whatever happens in your mind, just let it happen and don't judge it, don't think anything of it. I trust that your inner wisdom is sorting it out. Right? And sometimes answers from your inner wisdom are not going to come straight away. And sometimes clarity is not coming straight away. I've said in teachings for years that every time I thought, oh, now I get it, then the teacher would say something and I would be totally confused and think, oh, what happened now? And then I need to sort it out again. And he would say, oh, did you get confused? Fantastic. That means that your inner wisdom can come and sort it out, And I thought that was, for me, was very helpful. At least I felt like, okay, there is maybe some good that can come from this. So don't feel discouraged, no matter what happens. Try to get the little nuggets that you really like and which are appealing to your mind. And the rest, it's a process that takes time. So yesterday we discussed the fact that things do not exist in the way they appear to us and why there is this discrepancy. Right? I spoke about how the mind projects and that we then perceive that as coming from the objects. So today we're going to talk about the truth. If there is a discrepancy between the things, how things appear to us and the way they exist, then what is true? What is true? What is really true? So we're going to talk about the two truths, the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. And we will talk about the meaning of the word true, because, as we already know, it can have several meanings in different contexts. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So now you know what is going to come. We can focus the mind, do a little meditation, just to bring the mind in the here and now. So in the first step in this kind of meditation is always to go first to the body. Feel the body. Bring the body in a posture that is suitable for your activity. Do a quick scan through your body. From the crown of your head down to your toes. Checking if there is any tension that needs to be released. And it's also a way of checking in with yourself. How am I feeling? How is my mind? And then bring your awareness to your breath by observing the rising and falling of your abdomen. Breathe naturally. And stay with every breath you take. And then we can set up a positive motivation for being here today. And you can do that for yourself. And whatever we do for ourselves that has benefit will also have benefit for others. And it is healthy that whatever we do for others also has benefit for ourselves. So try to see both benefits for you and for others, and you participating in this session. And then remember your Buddha potential, your Buddha nature, your true nature. Seated at your heart in the form of the most subtle mind, hidden like a precious jewel covered by mud, like the blue sky covered by clouds. It's there with a huge potential for love, compassion, wisdom. And the purpose of taking refuge is that we create the conditions and that we find the directions so that we can develop that potential to the best of our ability. And while you reflect on that, I will read the refuge prayer that we normally do one time, very slowly. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By listening to the teachings and practicing all the other perfections, may I achieve the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. And then we can start. So when we talk about the nature of reality, I'm explaining the nature of reality from what we call the Prasangika point of view. In Tibetan Buddhism, there are 4 different schools that all posit their own view of reality. And one view is kind of evolving from the previous view. So they're all related to each other. And all these views are related to the views that we ourselves have. But to explain it, I can only talk from one point of view. So I'm talking from the most subtle point of view, which is seen in Tibetan Buddhism as the final view. Like, this is how things are. We can see things differently, but eventually we have to come to, how to say, if you can integrate this view into your life, you can feel that you are much more connected with what is really happening in life, that you are more in line with how nature works. That's my experience, let me say it like that. So before, I would always have these questions like, why does this happen? And this doesn't make any sense. And how come this? And how? And so a lot of this questioning mind has gone, you know, it's like, oh, of course things happen like that. Oh yeah, I could have expected that. And that's very natural. And because the mind gets more in line with how reality is, the disturbing emotions, they don't arise anymore, or they arise less often and less intense. And when they arise, they don't keep hanging so long. Right? If you think in a way that is not in accordance with reality, there will be questions. There are things that you don't get, that you don't understand. So then you have to adjust your view. Maybe you're seeing something not completely in accordance with reality. And I don't see things, I mean, don't think that I see things in accordance with reality, right? I'm trying. I'm only trying. I'm using my mind and my reasoning mind to explain my emotional mind, why things happen the way they happen. But anyway, so this is where I'm coming from. So when we speak about a discrepancy between the way things appear to us and the way things exist in actuality, that applies to all things, everything. Everything that we can talk about appears in a certain way to us, but it exists in a very different way. For us, it is very interesting to look at the discrepancy in relation to the self, in relation to I, in relation to me, because it is the way that we believe in ourselves that gets us into trouble. True? Maybe you believe trouble is coming from outside, trouble is coming from others. But the real trouble is coming from we reacting to whatever comes from outside. If we can tolerate what comes from outside, if we can see whatever's coming from outside for what it is, you know, then nothing happens to the mind. So holding on to the self, our belief in the self, is the cause for all other delusions to arise. And delusions is that what disturbs the mind. We also call them disturbing emotions. As soon as they arise in the mind, they disturb the mind. So yesterday I mentioned that on the independence on an object that appears to us, the mind generates a generic image of that object, right? The object appears, and then in the mind, the generic image arises, and then we project that onto the object. And then that projected object reflects back to us as if it exists from the side of the object, as if it comes from the side of the object, as if it is living in the object. If I look at my car, then it looks like car is coming from the side of the object. It doesn't look like car is coming from my mind. It's just the image in my mind that I have projected onto the car. So what we do is we mix the projection of the mind together with the object. And then we believe it is the same thing. True? When we believe it is the same thing, then it starts to look like that whatever we think, sometimes we confuse whatever we think with reality itself. Have you ever noticed that? There is something happening in the near future, something that causes you some anxiety. Maybe you have an exam or something like that, or a difficult conversation, and you already start thinking about it. How is this going to go? And you have a certain scenario playing in your mind, and sometimes they end really well, and sometimes they don't end well. And so this is the way we prepare. But sometimes, I don't know. I remember that sometimes I even had a feeling I already had that conversation because it had been so in my mind that I thought it already has happened. Right? This is how real it can look. Or we believe that, we have this scenario playing and it is always ending bad. It is always ending in a way that is not so good for us. We believe that is how it's going to be. Or I already know how it's going to be. What you know is the projection of your mind. And if we hold on to that strongly, then it could really well be that it is going to happen the way you think. Because you're not able to let go of your projection. You're not able to go there with an open mind. You go there with all your fears and all your beliefs and then things happen in accordance with that. True, do you have that experience? If we could let go of all that and just be in the present moment and be open for whatever is unfolding, the chance for a good outcome is much bigger. True. So this is what we can learn from working with the mind and seeing things for what they are. So what we do is when we project that generic image that we have in our mind, when we project that onto whatever appears to us, what we do is we project the quality of inherent existence. Inherent existence means that something has its own entity. It appears as having its own entity. It is a singular thing, If I see what I call car, what arises in my mind is an image of one thing, a singular thing, which is permanent in nature and which is independent of anything else. So it is standing in and of itself. And this is what I project onto the thing that I call car. And then that image of that singular, permanent, independent thing reflects back to me. And I think it is coming from the car. It is living in the car. And so this is the way we perceive our reality. And that is the only reality we have, right? So for us, that is real. I have a real cup, I have a real lamp, I have a real mic. Everything that appears to me appears as being real, appears as being true. If somebody would say that is not a real mic, I would say, yeah, it is a real mic. You know, look at that, it is real. But because we have no other reality. This is all we know. So that reality is called the conventional reality. It exists out of conventions. It is based out of conventions. It is based on agreements that we made. Something that looks like this and this and this, sounds like this, functions in a certain way. We give that a name. This is a table. This is a tree. So these conventions are all relative. They do not exist absolute. Right? The conventions, what I call tree, is called in another language something very different. So tree is not absolute tree. When I'm in Holland, we talk about bomen, something very different. Sounds different. We mean the same thing. Conventional reality is relative because whatever arises, whatever is impermanent, arises from causes and conditions. When causes and conditions are not there, things cannot arise. Or when not all the causes and conditions arise, things can not completely arise. Things are also relative in that we speak about, this is very long, but it is only long compared to something that is shorter. Something is fat compared to something that is very thin. Something is high compared to something that is low. There is no real high in this world. There is no real low in this world. It's all relative. Right? All based on conventions, all based on agreements. So that conventional reality is for us ordinary beings true. And therefore it is called conventional truth. Conventional truth is that what is true for the mind of ordinary beings. That's how it is defined. You know, nothing else. There is no other truth in conventional truth than that it is true for the mind of ordinary beings. Right? And so in that way, there is a validity in that. We have conventions, we have agreements. If I say to a mic, oh, that is actually a cup, you know, then you all say, no, that's not a cup, that's a mic. We agree to call that a mic. Right, so I can make mistakes in the conventional truth because we all have the agreement that if we see this and this, it is true that that is called a mic, for instance. So true, if we talk about true, then in Buddhism, what we mean is that things appear in the way they exist. Right? So all the conventional truth doesn't exist in the way it appears, and therefore it is not really true. To be true, things need to appear in the way they exist, or things need to exist in the way they appear to us. There is no discrepancy between the appearance and the reality of things. So this is me thinking, you know, by analyzing the nature of all things, yogis, you know, they were meditating. They had this feeling like something doesn't match up. Something appears like this, but then I meditate on it and then it appears very different. So there is what is really true. So I think that is what they were wondering. What is really true? What is my I feel myself? Is that really true? You know, I'm going to look for the self. Can I find the self? No, I cannot find the self. So then what is the self? You know, so the yogis, the Hindu yogis, They couldn't find the self in the body. And then they said the self is not in the body, which is true. You cannot find the self in the body. And then they said the self is the higher self. It is Atman. It is not here in the body. Right? Then Buddhism refutes such an Atman. But the start where they started, they were totally correct. So yogis, they could see that what we believe is true, that doesn't exist the way it appears. So we believe that things exist inherently, that things have that entity. While in reality, things lack inherent existence. Things are empty of inherent existence. The nature of things, the nature of self, is that it doesn't exist inherently. And so that lack of inherent existence is called emptiness. Sometimes when we hear about emptiness, we might wonder, empty of what? Or we might think empty means nothing, So if the self is empty, then it means the self doesn't exist. Sometimes we think emptiness means there is nothing there. Right? Emptiness means only the lack of inherent existence. Emptiness doesn't say anything about what is there. Emptiness only talks about what is not there. So we add that quality to the self. We add that quality to all the objects that we perceive. That quality is not there. In order to see reality, we need to take that quality back, right? We need to take that quality away from the object. It isn't there. It doesn't exist there. Our generic image that we projected onto the objects doesn't exist over there. To see the nature of the object, we need first take whatever we put on top. We have to take that back. True? We have to see, oh, that's not there. I thought it was there, but it is not there. So things are not nothingness. Things, it's not when I say things do not exist inherently, it is not that they do not exist. Things can exist without being inherently existent. And so that is a real challenge to see the difference between existence and letting go of that inherent existence, seeing that difference. So to discover how things exist, we first have to see that things do not exist in the way we thought they exist, or in the way we believe them to exist. Things do not exist in the way they appear. They appear to exist inherently, but they are empty of that. So what appears to us is not the ultimate reality of things. We see the conventional reality. So if we want to realize the ultimate reality of things, we need to realize the lack of inherent existence. We need to realize that the self and all other objects are empty of inherent existence. So that is called, we need to realize emptiness, or we need to realize the nature of things, or the mode of being of things. That refers all to the same thing. The essence of things. So they say, I think Kandrula, she sometimes talks about what it means to realize emptiness. She is not shy to show that she knows how to do that. And she says, when you realize emptiness, you know so strong that that is the truth. Like no doubt, there is nothing else. 100,000% for sure. That's the truth. You know that that is the truth, and that the truth exists in the way it appears to you. You know that there is nothing between your perception and the truth itself. The truth appears directly to you. And so when they see emptiness, they see their object, emptiness, in the way it exists. So therefore, emptiness is true in that respect. And so realizing emptiness is called the ultimate truth, realizing the ultimate truth. And so we define the conventional truth as that what is true for ordinary beings. And the ultimate truth is what is true for Arya beings. Arya beings are the beings that realize emptiness directly. So emptiness is true. It exists in the way it appears when it is realized directly in meditative equipoise. Does that mean that emptiness truly exists? Then we're going to play with the word true. Truly existent means that it has an truly existence means that it has its own nature, a truly existent nature. And so they say no, emptiness, just as everything lacks true existence, also emptiness lacks true existence. According to Prasangika school, nothing exists truly, not even emptiness. Not even the ultimate truth exists truly, exists ultimately. It is the essence or the nature which is empty of inherent existence. So we find the true nature of something, and then we might think, oh, that must be really true. Then Prasangika says, no, that's also not really true. This also lacks inherent existence. So that means that all objects, including the nature of all things, doesn't exist inherently, lacks a nature existing from the side of the object. Can we follow? I know this is brain breaking. Can I continue? Or you feel you need to... Someone asked, after how many years have you realized emptiness? I haven't realized emptiness. But I studied my Jamyang for 2 years. I mean, I first did a lot of just pre-study, and then I did my Jamyang, which talks about emptiness, for 2 years. And then I wrote a study manual about that study. And that took me 4 years. And then I went back to the study of 2 years emptiness, and I didn't finish that, but I finished 1.5 years of that. So do I have glimpses of emptiness? No. Yeah, so some people, they talk about, you can have glimpses of emptiness. I wonder if that is really emptiness. But I think, we have this big, I'll call it the blanket of misconceptions. And I do think when we start cleaning that up, you can sometimes, get a glimpse where it is not so tight, or where you see, because even when you see impermanence, even if you see it on a course level, if you get some kind of insight, that can already be a huge eye opener, like, oh, wow, it is not as stuck as I always believed it was. So in that sense, I do think that you can have insights. And then you can think, is that a realization? I think when we have insights, with every insight comes a kind of wisdom, and that wisdom will stay in our mind, and that wisdom will somehow counteract that grasping at the delusions. We always remember, oh no, it's not really like that, because that wisdom is very strong. I'll come to that later. Let me have a look. So if we want to realize the nature of reality, we first realize what is not there. We take away what we projected onto it. And then by seeing that what we thought was there is not there, then we can ask the question, then what is there? Then what does exist? Then how do things exist? And so how do things exist? They exist in dependence on causes and conditions. They exist in dependence on their parts, and they exist by being imputed by the mind. The way we perceive reality is strongly connected to the conceptual mind. Sometimes they say it is, our conventional reality is the conceptual mind, but it doesn't really completely, I feel it is not completely right if you say it like that, but it's almost right. So our conceptual mind, our world, what we perceive in the world, is very much living in our own mind. So what we perceive is mainly coming from our own mind, created by our own mind. And the mind projects onto, we perceive certain things. Do we really perceive a thing, or do we just perceive vibrations? Forms, color, maybe the vibrations are not even forms and colors, but we perceive them on our eyes as forms and colors. And then the mind makes up a kind of object from that, because that shape and these colors have a certain function, and we learn that it has a certain name. But what we perceive in our mind has very little to do with how the actual object looks like. So how can we bridge that gap, right? So we have this net of conceptions that is obscuring the true nature of our mind. So how do we get to that true nature of the mind? And somebody said yesterday, are we just going to say this is not it and this is not it? Yeah, for a while, we have to say that. We have to look at everything and then say, oh, this is not it, this is not it. But it is also very inspiring to talk about, then what is it? Because that somehow gives us some juice and gives us inspiration to keep doing the hard work of saying, no, this is not it, this is not it. So how do we do that? So one way of doing that, and that is coming from the very strongly represented in the Gelugpa tradition, is that you use study, right? So we have this net of conceptions that is not in accordance with reality. And what I feel what the study is doing is presenting you with a concept that is in line with reality. So instead of having all these disconnections, what reality is in actuality and how we think about it, they're disconnected. You connect them by studying how things are in actuality. You get the intellectual knowledge that will help you to change the wrong concepts. So you can learn about how do things exist in actuality, and you learn about impermanence, and you learn about causes and conditions. When you study emptiness, you talk a lot about causes and conditions. You learn about what it means changing moment by moment. You learn about inherent existence and what it is not, what it means if things are not inherently existent. And so with all that, you also learn how the mind works, and you learn how the emotions work, and you learn what is a wrong conception and what is a correct conception. And so the more we can let go of the wrong conceptions and adopt the correct conceptions, the more our conceptual mind, which obscures us from seeing the nature of the mind, comes in line with the nature of the mind. And so when it is in line with the nature of the mind, it is easier to go beyond it. Right? I do not have to go, when I try to go beyond my conceptual mind, I do not have to go through all the knots and the entanglements. It is like, yes, there is a conception there, but it can just open up when I concentrate strong enough. So some people say, but the conceptual mind is the problem, so all the conceptions need to be removed in order to see the nature of the mind. So why would you study? When you study, you still generate a lot of conceptions. And so they say there is no use of that. There's no need to study. So what the Gelugpa tradition says about that is that by studying, you generate conceptions which are totally opposite of the wrong conceptions. And when you have generated such conception, that will eliminate, a correct conception will eliminate the wrong conception. So we are grasping at the self, holding the self to exist inherently. If I generate in my mind a conception that can see the lack of inherent existence of the self, the moment I generate that conception in my mind, it will directly oppose the grasping of the self. And because grasping of the self is not in accordance with reality, I will not be able to hold on to it. I will have to let it go. It will go naturally. So they say, if you generate correct conceptions, it is very powerful in letting go the wrong conceptions. So for instance, if you believe you have $50 in your purse and you believe it, so people say, do you have money? You say, yeah, I have $50 in my purse. And you maybe don't look in your purse for 2 days, and then you open your purse and there's no money. It's empty of the $50, right? The moment you see it is empty, your belief that you have $50 is gone. You might think, where is it? Where is it? You see the absence of $50 and you start looking for the $50, but it is not there. And you do not put your purse back and then go back to the belief, I know there is $50 in the purse. No, you say, I thought it was, but it is not, And every time when the thought comes up that you still have money in your purse, there is your wisdom mind that says, no, there is no money in the purse. So if we can generate a wisdom mind that totally directly opposes the mind holding onto the self, onto the inherently existent self, that conception cannot last. That conception cannot keep standing. It will disappear. It will subside. So then every time when the self appears to be inherently existent, you have the wisdom mind that says it's not like that. It appears like that, but it's not like that. I have the feeling I have money in my purse, but I know it's not like that. We have that when somebody dies. We almost cannot believe somebody died. And we see the person, every time we expect the person coming into the door. But the mind that knows reality then says, no, that's not possible. That person has passed away. Right? Knowing reality makes that whatever is not in line with reality will not take over anymore. We just simply will not believe it anymore. So that is the way Gelugpa does it, you know. But you can also, there are also traditions that start with the meditation, and they start with the experience. And experience is also a very good way to connect with reality, with what is here, with what is present. When we observe what is present, we are not making up stories, right? We're feeling it. So our experiences are, in that regard, they are true, in the sense that they are real, in the sense that they are connected to the present moment. They are not, you know, delusions only arise in dependence on thinking about the future, thinking about the past. When we are in the present moment, it is very difficult for delusions to arise. I don't know how much you hear, but I have a little Indian after school time happening here with the dogs and playing kids. So when we start with meditation, what we do, we bring the mind back to the present. We bring the mind back to the present. Delusions do not arise from the present moment. They arise the moment after. And so meditation can teach us a lot about the impermanent nature of things. And some people say meditation can also teach you on the lack of inherent existence of things. I personally don't have that experience, but I have to trust that when teachers say that is the case, you know. Meditation and study are not contradictory, right? They go together, but we all have different inclinations. There are people who need to study before they can meditate. There are people who meditate first before they're interested in study. Lama Tsongkhapa says, every piece of Dharma is an instruction for practice. When you read his text, when I studied the Lamrim Chenmo in Australia with the Geshe there, he said every sentence in this book is an instruction for practice. And so this is how I studied it. Every sentence I would put in my mind and think, oh, where are you? You know, how do you relate to that? How does your mind relate to that? How does your mind react to that? And so then you can see how deep the Lamrim is. You know, it is very deep and very connected to how the mind and the body works, and how the order of realizations. You know, it is quite genius what Lama Tsongkhapa has done. So we need to practice what we study. We need to study what we practice and see that they are the same thing, you know, just coming from a different perspective, but they represent the same thing. All right. Somebody feels that it is very vague what I'm talking about. I'm very sorry for that. So I'll just read the question that is here. And if you have a question, you can also put up your hand, and Pema will give you the mic, but I'll do first one. And if you ask questions, I'm going to ask you to really ask a question and keep it short and sweet, and make sure that it is about what we spoke about, you know, because I know that you all have questions about many other things. And if there is time and space, I'm very happy to go there. But I think we first stay with the topic so that everyone is as clear as we can. So there's one question that says, how do we engage with our understanding of emptiness on an everyday basis in our everyday life, so we can at least start engaging with the ultimate truth in a small way? So is it okay when I come back to that on, I think it's day 8 or 9, I'm going to talk about emptiness, and I'm going to talk about emptiness and how we realize emptiness and how we can apply that Is that okay? Hold that question for a while. But we talk about it. I want to try to make as, the material as practical as possible, because I really want to make that connection between study and intellectual understanding and practice. But I'm coming from the intellectual understanding. That's just the education I had in this life. It happened somehow. Like that, causes and conditions coming together. All right, so Neil has a question.
Neil, can you ask your question, please?
Yeah, thank you. Well, so my question is regarding to that you were talking about the misconception and the right conception, countering it, eliminating it, so on that part. So basically, when we have, let's say, one concept for the time being, we don't know whether it's a wrong concept or right concept, right? And then we study, and so another concept comes to us, and then that has a tussle, or what you say, fight between those two, and then something wins, and we understand.
There's no fight. There's no fight.
I'm sorry, maybe an argument in our head. Okay. So my question is, so when we have just one concept, then even then, and when we don't know there are other concepts, even the possibility that there might be other concepts, won't that also help to not dearly hold on to the only one concept that we have? Just thinking about that are possibilities of other concepts before we get those other concepts. So am I clear with my question?
Yeah, I understand your question. So what it says in the Lamrim, it says even generating a little bit of doubt in relation to the grasping at true existence will shatter your whole cyclic existence, right? So even if you do not know, the fact that you challenge it, maybe the self doesn't exist the way it appears. If you really challenge that, you don't have to know the right answer. You don't have to know how it exists. But even doubting it will change a lot. Yes, because that already will damage your belief. Right? Yes. So you don't have to wait for the total realization in order to weaken your conception. That will weaken long before that.
Right. Answers my question.
Okay, wonderful. Any other question? I know it is a challenging topic. So there were others. Let me go back. Can we know any ultimate truth, or are we always blocked by concepts, ideas? What do you mean by knowing? Is that knowing, intellectually knowing? We can think about the ultimate truth. We can have a conceptual understanding about the ultimate truth. But as long as we are thinking, we cannot directly see the ultimate truth. In order to see the ultimate truth directly, without any conceptions, we need to do a lot of preparation, right? In order to get there. So that is not easy. You need a lot of qualities in your mind in order to, you need also to make your mind really, really subtle. Emptiness is a very subtle object. It is one of the most subtle objects. I think the subtlest object. No, not sure. It is a very subtle object. So you need a very subtle mind in order to realize that. In order to generate such a subtle mind, you need to be very skilled in the single-pointed concentration, in calm abiding, and into going into all the levels of the concentrations. There are 4 levels of concentration, the one more subtle than the other. In order to realize emptiness, you need to have the mind of the 4th concentration, which is a very subtle mind. So to prepare for that, you need a lot of time. So there is only one ultimate truth, and that's emptiness. And that ultimate truth is the same for every object. When you realize the emptiness of one object, you realize the emptiness of all other objects as well. There is no difference in that realization. So there is only one ultimate truth. In order to make the mind more subtle, we have to, bring the mind inwards. We have to quieten our sensory organs, the sense perception. When we are full in the world, it will be impossible to realize emptiness. That's just how it is. So we need to quieten the mind, and then we make the mind more subtle, more subtle, more subtle by going into deep meditations. So, I don't know. Yes, Dan. Emma, can you give the mic to Dan?
Sure. Yeah. Dan?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. I have a question. When I sit and observe a cloud and I'm sort of watching it kind of come into being and out of being, and it's gaseous and it's very light, and you can sort of sense the molecules and the atoms shifting and disappearing. Is that sense of the impermanence of the cloud, is that like a kind of insight into emptiness, but we don't see it in solid objects?
Well, that's impermanence, no? Are you
So
seeing the molecules? Is that what you're saying?
you don't see it, but that you have a very strong sense of the impermanence of that object that you label cloud, because it's shifting, it's disappearing, it's coming into being and out of being and moving. But with ordinary objects like a table or a TV or a mountain, we don't have that sense at all. Is that, am I on the right track?
Yes. I mean, these are basic realizations. We first need to realize impermanence before we can go to emptiness. Emptiness is much more subtle than impermanence. Emptiness is much more subtle than even the subtle impermanence. But our mind is so grasping impermanence. When we start observing the impermanence of things, it will shatter our concept or the way that we project, the way that we hold on to permanence. So then things become more fluid. And so then the mind can become more subtle from that also. And then we are on the way. But realizing impermanence is something very different from realizing emptiness.
Okay.
But it is on the way, so keep going. It's very good.
Is that a good way to begin to train the mind?
It's fantastic. It's really fantastic. Keep doing. Okay, so someone says, you can't realize emptiness while pursuing your worldly activities. I would say if you haven't realized emptiness in previous lives and you have very strong imprints from that, no, you won't be able to do that.
Okay, so what will help with that process?
So
what can I do? Yeah.
Well, nobody knows what you did in past lives, right? So you might have some really good imprints waiting there that want to wake up, right? You don't know.
Yeah, but suppose if I don't have, then like what can I do in this life?
Start where you are. Don't jump. Don't think, oh, I want to realize emptiness in this life. You wanna put it in the future. That might be this life. That might be future lives. You don't know, right? So you have to start where you are, and you do what you can on the way to emptiness. So what Dan said, I'm thinking about the clouds and observing the clouds coming and going. And is that helpful? That's very helpful. Observe the nature of reality where you are. reconnect with the experience, reconnect with what is happening in the present moment. The conceptions, we also project them into the present moment. But then when we start analyzing, we can see, things do not exist like that. Right? If I have a car in front of me and I'm going to start thinking, where is the car? Is the car this bit or this bit? And then I think, what if I take all the bits away? All these bits are not car. And I take them all away. What happens to the car? Where is the car? There is no car. Analyzing this again and again and again and again will prepare your mind, And I think
but it's kind of,
Yes.
sorry.
I think if we truthfully set out with a sincere interest in developing the mind, understanding reality as it is, then when we start doing that, we apply with what we have learned, things will start happening. The way will start showing itself. Right?
Yeah, I think it's the mind that's obsessed with instant gratification. So it's kind of like, it's very hard if I think that, I'm working towards a goal that I might not be able to attain this life. Because why I am here, like most people, I want to end my suffering. I want to end my delusions, my illusions. But then if you tell me that, in this life, you probably can't reach there, then it's kind of like, a little disappointing, I would say. But because our mind is so used to instant gratification.
Instant gratification. I think somebody said to His Holiness, how can we realize emptiness really quickly or something? How can we get where you are really quickly? And he started crying. He was like, you have no idea. And I must say, when before I got ordained, there were all these stories. You can achieve enlightenment in one lifetime, and you just give up your life and you go for it. And so I did that. But slowly, I start to realize it's maybe not going to be this lifetime. And I feel a bit disappointed, and I feel that wasn't completely, maybe it was said correctly, but maybe I didn't understand it correctly. But I wish that somebody had said, the ones who have the merit to do it in one lifetime, there are very few. And I think with our Western mind, if we want to try to do it in this lifetime, what we start doing is we start pushing. We start using the mind that wants to achieve, which is the mind of attachment. We start pushing too hard, which means that we start creating lung problems. Wind energy gets out of control. We get all kinds of obstacles, It's not helpful on the path. You actually go more slow because of all that, So when you are able to face yourself.
No, I was just going to ask, so how to let go of these expectations, to not have this feeling of a permanently unfulfilled promise?
Well, every action that you do, every action, every thought, every action, you can choose whether that is going to be a contribution towards your enlightenment or not.
Okay.
Right? So being in the present moment, and you think, what can I do now so that I contribute something to my enlightenment, something to improve my wisdom, something to improve my compassion, then you use every moment to the best of your ability. You take the essence of every moment, right? Then you might not even have to put the goal like, I want to achieve it. But you will see your life improving moment to moment to moment. And you will see that you are developing moment to moment. And so that is your gratification.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. There's one more question. Yogi?
Jogi, please, can you ask your question? I'm trying to answer.
So, yes, okay. So, yes, the question is, so you are saying we have to believe in next birth. That means we will take birth after birth to realize this emptiness. So we have to believe in this thing that yes, but I mean, like, it's not one life, but we'll keep. So we have to first believe in this fact, in this thing, then we can realize emptiness.
You have to believe in past and future lives to realize emptiness.
Yes,
Is that what you're
yes,
saying?
Yes.
Do you have to believe in past and future lives to realize emptiness? I'm not sure about that.
That's what you said.
Huh? I haven't even spoken about past and future. I have said that probably you will not achieve that in this life. This is what I said.
Right.
Yes. So I didn't say so. Why I said that to Alice is because Alice has a huge energy for achievement, and she wants to go really fast and do it now and have success now. And I think that energy in itself can become an obstacle, right? So I talk about maybe next lifetime to let that energy settle down and give it up a little bit, right? You need to use that energy in a different way. The way you do it now is gonna burn you out if you keep doing that. I do not think that you necessarily have to believe in past and future lives in order to realize emptiness. At the same that I'm going to tell you, you do not necessarily have to believe in past and future lives. Emptiness is about the nature of reality, and you can see that, you can analyze that in every moment of your life that you are here, that things do not exist in the way they appear. Whether or not you're going to get to the total realization, I do not know. But I do know that every little bit we do, every little step we make, every little bit of understanding we have will help to reduce the delusions, will help to lessen your suffering, will help you to feel better about yourself, about life, will, give you more space to go where you feel that you need to go. Right. And I don't think we have to contemplate past and future lives in order to do that. To contemplate the impermanent nature of life, you don't have to believe there is a future life. You know that you're going to die, right?
Yes.
Life is ending. So that is the impermanence. So think about that. And then what are you going to do with that? And then think about how the mind works and how you see things and how things cannot exist in the way that we see them, in the way that they appear to us. Just think about it. Right? Don't forget about past and future lives. There's no need. But if you say, am I going to achieve that in this life? I would have to say, I'm not sure, but if it doesn't happen in this life, it might happen in the next life. And if there's not going to be a next life, there's nothing lost. You will have improved the quality of this life. You can be sure of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that good enough?
It helps, but as I mentioned, things are a bit vague. I'm getting something, but things are not so clear when I listen to you, but there is not much clarity.
Right.
I listen to the words, but I'm not able to grasp everything you are saying. Yes,
and that's quite normal. Is this the first time that you hear this kind of teachings?
I did one course at Tushita Residential.
Yeah.
So this is the second one.
Right. So if it is not so clear, it can be that your mind is not used to even thinking about these conceptions. It might be that you feel like little connection with even going there with your mind. And then it can stay all kind of vague. When I heard these teachings for the first time, I heard them the first time I was at Tushita, my first 10-day retreat in 1997. And we had this highly realized Lama, Thupten Yeshe, coming. He was a meditator for 30 years. He came out of the cave and he was teaching us. And he was going to teach on patience. And he started to talk on emptiness. And English is not my native language, so I had already trouble understanding the English, but then understanding the emptiness, I had no clue what he was talking about. No clue. And then at the end of the teaching, he said, oh, you know, I should have talked about patience and I didn't get to it. I'll come back tomorrow. And so for 3-4 days, he was just talking on emptiness and I just fell asleep and then yawning and couldn't keep my eyes open, you know. I had no idea what he was talking about. That's how we can start, you know, but it doesn't mean that it's going to stay like that. You know, now it's 25 years later. Now I'm talking about it. So something has changed, right? And these changes can happen over time when we train the mind.
Thank you. It makes sense.
Okay, welcome. Are we ready to go to the meditation? How are you falling asleep? You cannot move a video while someone has raised their hands. Okay, I'll say okay. I'm not going to move the video. I'm just going to go to the meditation. So I'll first tell you what we're going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow I want to talk, so we have spoken about that self-grasping mind and how we project something onto the self, which in actuality doesn't exist. And tomorrow we're going to see then what is the result of us doing that? What kind of, how do we live our life and what we think is normal? And if we keep doing that, what does that mean to us? And how can we do things differently so that we can live more in accordance with the nature of reality and with our own true nature? All right. I know this sounds a bit vague, but tomorrow I will explain in detail. We constantly look for comfort and satisfaction, right? I want to feel good. We want to feel good all the time, every moment, every minute. And we do not want to feel any discomfort. Oh, do I have to wait? Oh, can I not get what I want? We cannot bear it. We need instant gratification, right? As Alice said. So we move away from discomfort and dissatisfaction. We always move towards comfort and satisfaction. But what is that actually doing with our mind when we do this? You know, this is our intuitive behavior or our instinctive behavior. But what kind of effect does it have on us, short-term, long-term? And how can we do that differently? All right. I hope you get a little bit what I'm talking about. All right, let's talk. We're going to do the meditation, and I'm going to do a meditation on, with meditating on the nature of the mind. And so today we do a meditation on the mind like the sky. Right, that fits also a dance question. So to start the meditation, we find a posture that is comfortable for the meditation. So whatever you have heard today, that might still be resonating in your mind somewhere, just let it go. Just let it do its own work. Focus on your body. Focus on your breath. And if it is helpful, you can take a few very deep breaths and then breathe the air out, dropping your shoulders, dropping any tension. And then breathe naturally. And while we go through this meditation, you can let your mind rest on the movements of your breath. You observe the rising and falling of your abdomen and rest your mind on that movement. The nature of the mind is that which is clear and knowing. Clear means that it is like space. It has no color, no shape. We can't see it, we can't touch it. It is like space, and therefore it has no characteristics of its own. Because it is like space, it allows qualities to arise in it. Our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, from very pleasant to very unpleasant, can all arise in the mind because the mind is like space, having no characteristics of its own. In meditating on the nature of the mind, sometimes the example of the blue sky is used. The nature of the mind is like the blue sky. And whatever arises in the mind, our thoughts, feelings, and emotions are like the clouds in the sky. Although the clouds appear in the sky, they are not the sky itself. Whatever arises in the sky will not stay, is impermanent by nature. It comes and goes. Clouds can be extremely beautiful. They can be ugly, they can be thick, they can be dark, they can be very thin and beautiful. What they have in common is that they all arise within the blue sky. And they come and go. And in the same way, our thoughts, our feelings and emotions arise within the mind and then dissolve back into the mind. They come and go. Normally, we are focused on what arises in the mind. We are thinking, we are struggling with our emotions, we are trying to solve problems. That is like being focused on the clouds. Just as the clouds are not the nature of the blue sky, whatever arises in our mind is also not the nature of the mind. The clouds are covering the blue sky in a similar way as our thoughts and feelings and emotions cover the nature of the mind. And sometimes the sky is full of clouds, and so much that we can't see the blue sky anymore. But not being able to see the blue sky doesn't mean that the blue sky doesn't exist. It is always there. Although the blue sky is covered by the clouds can never touch or change the nature of the blue sky. In the same way, sometimes our mind is overwhelmed with delusions, and we won't be able to remember our true nature. But that doesn't mean that our true nature doesn't exist at that moment. Our true nature is always there. And although the delusions can cover the nature of our mind, they can never touch or pollute the nature of the mind. Imagine being on the top of a mountain and staring up at a sky that is completely clear and free of clouds. The air is fresh. The sky is deep blue. Concentrate on that vast, unobstructed space. Imagine that it flows down and embraces you and your surroundings. Everything becomes like space. Focus on that experience. And feel that the nature of your mind is like this clear, empty space. And if you lose your concentration, go back to that mountain. Focus on the empty space. Let it dissolve into you. And you can refresh your experience again and again. Focusing on that immense space. Imagining that it is all around you and that it is also inside you. That your mind is like that. And then bring your awareness slowly back to your body. Connect with all the parts in your body. Go from your head down to your arms, your stomach, your back, your legs, your hands, your feet. Bring your mind to the present moment, to your life. And when you feel ready, you can slowly open your eyes. And if you feel that you weren't finished yet with the meditation, know that you can go back at any time, reconnecting with that spacious aspect of your mind, making it as vast as you can. It's very refreshing for the mind doing this. And then we can dedicate all the positive energy that we have created by doing this meditation and by doing this session. And we can imagine that all that positive energy gathers in our heart, filling our whole body with beautiful, blissful energy. So much that it starts to overflow through the crown of our head. And like a fountain, it radiates out into space, touching each and every sentient being, giving them everything they need, everything they want, everything that makes them happy. Releasing all their suffering. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you all tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Venerable. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And see you all tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.